I want to convey to you and your audience the information that I received from a former high-ranking officer of the 1st Main Directorate of the KGB of the USSR, who later was one of the leaders of the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service and was one of the deputies of Yevgeny Maximovich Primakov. The FSB of Russia, on Putin's personal order, is ready to allocate, or, most likely, has already allocated more than 70 million euros for organizing subversive activities in the countries of Western Europe. The first deputy director of the FSB, General of the Army Sergei Borisovich Korolev, is responsible for this operation. The importance of this event is evidenced by the fact that the so-called Special Forces Igor Sekin, director of the FSB Military Counterintelligence Department, Colonel General Ivan Ivanovich Tkachev, was directly involved in the leadership of this operation. As a former specialist in military intelligence and counterintelligence, I am very worried about the merger of two departments, intelligence and military counterintelligence. I have real fears that regular officers of the Department of Military Counterintelligence with specific skills may be involved in this operation in the countries of Western Europe. The danger is that they can foresee and use the mistakes and shortcomings of counterintelligence officers of Western European countries who oppose them. In my opinion, now it is not difficult to recruit ordinary performers within the countries of Western Europe themselves. Moreover, just like the KGB at one time, the SVR and the FSB today stop at nothing and can use anyone to achieve their goals. These may be Muslim fundamentalist extremists who flooded Europe among the same Syrian refugees, as well as refugees from Iraq, Turkish Kurdistan, Afghanistan, or the countries of North and West Africa. These may also be the former so-called Russian Germans dissatisfied with their financial position and position in society, who moved to their historical homeland in the 90s, but still mentally support the Putin regime and stand up for a strong Russia. Moreover, social problems in Europe and Germany, in particular, have sharply worsened since the start of the active phase of Russia's war against Ukraine. It is sad to state this, but the driving force behind possible riots and pogroms and explosive aggression can also be refugees from Ukraine, especially from the eastern Russian-speaking regions, who, due to their mentality, are unlikely to refuse the money offered for participating in such riots. The so-called good Russians, who fled from mobilization but remained mental imperials, as a rule, people far from politics without a stable worldview, but mostly stuffed with Kremlin propaganda, can become the vanguard of these riots. We should also not forget about the extreme right-wing groups within the civil society of the European countries themselves, and their targeted funding from the Kremlin, which can also spur them to organize pogroms and riots. The further coming to power of parties and politicians from among those who are ready to negotiate and go to peace negotiations with the Kremlin under the influence of dissatisfaction of the electorate of European countries due to the complicated economic and energy situation, and aggravated by the wave of unrest that have arisen, is not ruled out. It is precisely the specialists of the Russian counterintelligence and intelligence that I mentioned above that are capable of organizing, gathering together and coordinating the actions of all this motley audience. Why can this destabilization operation be activated now? In the United States, the lower house of the U.S. Senate began its work, where the Republican Party received a small majority, and the tone in the work of the Republican wing of representatives, unfortunately, is set by the Trumpist reckless MAGA. The allocation and distribution of the budget and, accordingly, the approval of new aid packages to Ukraine depend on the decision of the lower house of the Senate. If the Trumpists block or significantly reduce this aid, then the main burden could shift to other countries of US NATO allies, countries of Western Europe, Britain, Germany, and France. And if the Kremlin's plan to destabilize the situation in the European home works, then the governments of European countries may no longer care about helping Ukraine, and it may naturally noticeably weaken. In favor of the fact that such an operation of the Russian special services could have already begun, the events with an attempted coup in Germany with plans to seize power and assassinate German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, as well as numerous arsons on New Year's Eve in Berlin and Paris with the participation of people in masks, speak in favor of the fact that such an operation by the Russian special services. Pay attention to the fireworks maliciously directed towards the buildings. The so-called quilted jackets in the Baltic countries have also become more active, and first of all in Lithuania from Kaliningrad. My Russian-speaking acquaintance received a very financially sound offer of cooperation on a permanent basis from one of his former classmates, who is now an officer in the Russian FSB. Previously, my friend had not received such proposals, and this suggests that, most likely, a budget has appeared, which FSB officers habitually offer to share with their acquaintances. All of the above, as a former lieutenant colonel of the GRU General Staff of the USSR, is very alarming, and I hope that this information will not pass by the leadership and employees of the special services of Western and Eastern Europe. In my opinion, it is necessary to focus as much as possible on the representatives of all categories already in the territories of the EU countries, which I have listed in this message. And also pay special attention to those who are now arriving from Russia and other countries of the post-Soviet space. End of message.